What's good, y'all? Black and Indeed, we are back. Season 5. We've been saying season 3. Excuse us. We're not always the brightest. It's season 5. It's season 5, episode 3. But today we got a special episode. Today, it's not really Black at ND.
No, it's not.
It's Black at SMC, St. Mary's College. So we'll introduce ourselves first. My name is Isaiah, of course.
I'm Luzola.
We're gonna go ahead and pass it on over to our lovely guests over here, our Black queens from St. Mary's.
Yes.
Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Habigail Garcon. I'm an elementary education major with hopes of a special education or mild intervention minor, and I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Jaylah. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. I'm majoring in psych with a concentration in physical therapy studies, and I am a sophomore at St. Mary's College.
Great. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. So if you guys are okay, we can just jump right into the questions that we have for you. So first off, to kind of like ease our way into it, just how's the semester going so far?
Semesters, at first it wasn't too bad, just getting into the field of it, but then now all of a sudden all the assignments are starting to hit, so I think it's just, the stress is starting to settle in, but we'll get through it.
I feel like this week I'm really feeling it with a lot of exams and everything, but I feel like it's going better than my freshman year. So sophomore year is pretty good so far.
That's great. That's really good. That's really good. So our next question for you is, what has your experience been like in the tri-campus community and at SMC? So you can talk about specifically at your college, but then also like in the greater scope of all the 3 campuses that we have here.
And tell us a little bit more about what SMC really is. You know, a lot of us, especially in this Notre Dame community, we don't always know what SMC is.
Very
I
true.
know I didn't even really know there's another college, Holy Cross. I didn't even know what Holy Cross was until like a couple weeks ago. So y'all just go and just tell us a little bit more about SMC.
How to describe St. Mary's is pretty hard. It's pretty indescribable just because of how amazing it is overall. I think it's a great place for community and sisterhood and to make great connections. Like my girl Jaylah here.
What your experience has been like in the tri-campus community as well?
I feel at first it was kind of hard to have an experience because it was just more of trying to get used to life at St. Mary's itself and then trying to venture out into Notre Dame and to Holy Cross. I mean, I've never really been over to Holy Cross, but over here it's just sort of interesting to try and interact with the community here just because I don't know, I feel like me personally, I tend to stay within my shell and the people that I know. So I think it's kind of hard at times just to try and interact with other people. So I think that's just a personal thing for me to overcome and to become more social within people of this community.
Yeah, I feel like for St. Mary's, I like the sisterhood aspect of it and just women supporting women and everything. But I feel like Notre Dame, the whole tri-campus, freshman year, we had Domer Fest and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I see what they were doing, but I don't think it really, helped or worked out. I don't know, because us being black or anything, I don't know. But it just wasn't a vibe for me it wasn't really. For you, no. Yeah. So it just wasn't really inclusive in a way. I don't know. So yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. What exactly made it not really be a vibe? What was that sort of feeling where you kind of were maybe uncomfortable or you just kind of felt like it just wasn't inclusive enough as it should have been?
I don't know how to describe it. Do you know? Here, you do it.
It wasn't overall just it felt like just a whole big party, but cliques were within the party. Yeah. So it was kind of hard to just try and talk to other people. And then even if it was just oh, hey, what's your name? What's your major? Move on. And I understand that's how the basics of a conversation starts in college, but it was just one and done, and then moved on. Music wasn't that good either, but
like most of the stuff on this campus.
Really wasn't, yeah.
That's just another situation for another time. But
water bottles throwing up in the air.
The water bottles in the air were not necessary at all, and they never will be.
That's funny. It's nice hearing about it because, like, I'm part of the grade that didn't get a Domerfest, so like, yeah. But honestly, I feel like I didn't really miss out on anything, so I'm not that upset about it.
You really didn't. Like for us, it wasn't nothing special. Like it was like, like it was alright, kind of like what they said. It was like cliques just kind of forming. You kind of just were doing your own thing, and especially as being black, we're trying to find other black people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and that's hard to do when you got like 1,000 people all just walking around, just like whatever. So yeah, I definitely. You didn't miss out on anything, really. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We had to walk from St. Mary's to Notre Dame.
Oh, they made you walk? They didn't have like any transportation
No,
to it?
it was like a 30-minute walk.
You're like, oh, it's just a mile.
Yeah. Down like that weird
It's just a mile.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Not just for me, but
like
it
no
was a mile.
shuttle, no shuttle
Yeah,
buses,
because isn't
no
there
like.
a shuttle that goes to, like, they didn't have that on, like, for.
Not for that night, no.
Damn.
Which is crazy because, like, you would think that's convenient.
Yeah.
So do you think that could maybe like kind of contribute to St. Mary's being overlooked in a sense, and they kind of only prioritize like Notre Dame students, whereas with y'all are a bit further away. Y'all had to walk the entire time, and they didn't really provide much for y'all to do that.
I feel like they did it for the experience more than like safety reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know, like at night, like what's the road called? Like the safe like. I don't know if we can say it on here, but.
I know the word you're talking about, though. I know what the street is called.
So I don't know. I feel like there should have been more supervisors. There was only like 2, and they were like college students. So, I mean, like, what are like sophomores gonna do if like something happens to us? So.
That's fair. That's really fair.
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure. So I think we'll move to our next question. Kind of tell us a little bit more about the culture surrounding diversity at SMC, and maybe like the tri-campus area as well. I see you shaking your head a little bit.
I saw them. I saw those facial expressions. I saw them.
Speaking of culture, I feel like you take what you get. It's a lot of making up of culture, like especially because it is a PWI and just being comfortable with that it is a PWI. It's more of just making your own. I feel as if like we have our BSA at school, and that's like a very beautiful opportunity to get to meet other Black women and to connect with them, to have really good friendships with them. So I think it's just you gotta make what you have.
Yeah, but like in the classroom, I feel like that's where it's most like intimidating because like sometimes I'm the only like Black person in the classroom, so it's very intimidating, especially like with group discussions and everything, and in physics lab. That's where it's at. I have many incidents where like they don't like believe like my work, so like they'll like double check with the professors like every time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every time.
Every time.
That's excessive.
Every time. Like even like my freshman year, my bio lab, like they just wouldn't believe like my work at all. So
Damn.
it's crazy.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm sorry. That's really horrible.
Going off of that as well, last year I was a bio major as well, and those labs were just brutal to get through because it felt like the professors weren't really getting what I was asking most of the time, and even if I was asking the right things, they were just overlooking it or just not helping me at all. So it was just more of a situation of like I'm fending for myself in a classroom where people aren't gonna help me either. So
tell us a little bit more about like the population of these labs and lecture. Are they big lecture halls, or are they kind of small, maybe like discussion-based groups where it's like, 10, 12 people, lectures like 50 plus? Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
They're definitely like small enough to have a discussion based. Like there's a lot of discussion within our classrooms. Lectures aren't too big, not like grand like you guys. It's probably like 35. Yeah, 35 to say the most.
Wow.
Wow, that is pretty, yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess the next question that I have for you, you say that you really love the sisterhood, and you have like a lot of, well, you explained both positive and negative experiences that you had with St. Mary's and the tri-campus community, but is there anything in particular that like really frustrates either of you, or like something that you wish would be different or would be changed?
So, I learned last year that the enrollment of like Black women on campus is very low, but this year was high. It was like there's a lot of like black women on St. Mary's campus, but the problem is keeping them there and not like transferring out. So I don't know like what that will look like, but having I don't know like if we have like more BSA meetings or like just more events on like both like tri campuses to like make like all of us like feel included, I think will help. But yeah.
I feel like there's lots of talk of inclusion and trying to dive into diversity, but there isn't much action behind it. Besides like SDB, which is the sorry, my apologies, diversity board. Yes, they are very inclusive to all ethnicities and races, so that's like a great opportunity. But as well, like I think just the lack of action behind all the diversity that they're talking about, it's not there. So if it were to be there, it'd be a different talk.
So going back to Jayla real quick, you talked about how it's kind of hard keeping black women there at SMC. What do you think is the reason behind that? Is it just because of the lack of diversity on campus in general? Is it because of the experiences that black women go through? Or?
I think it's the lack of diversity. I think it's both actually. We had an incident like 2 weeks ago where they were doing like this diversity training thing for freshmen, right? I think it was for freshmen, right? You don't know what I'm talking Girls on Yik Yak. Okay. They did this like diversity training for like our SBL like class thing. Yeah. And one girl said like, "What about us?" Because the context was about like, you know, we had like BSA and then the SDB, which is Diversity Board, and like LGBTQ spaces. And this girl was like, "Oh, but like, what about the rest of us?" And it's like, you guys make up like 90% of the population in this school, so it's like, why would you like say that? So I don't know. That just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, that's fair. I think retention is a very important thing to talk about because especially like I know mostly about Notre Dame because this is where I go to school, but I know like even like faculty members and like professors here, they've been dwindling within like the last like few months. Like I know like maybe 2 or 3 faculty and staff who just don't work here anymore or don't want to work here anymore. So I think retention is very important. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that.
And I think adding on to that, like even on the Notre Dame community, there's a lot of black students. Like one of the main things you'll hear with black students is, "Oh, I'm gonna transfer here. I want to go to HBCU. I want to go to all these other universities." And it's because of like that lack of inclusion. It's like we know that we belong on these campuses. We know that we're smart enough to be on these campuses. But it's just that sense of belonging where you're black. You feel like you just stand out so much. You feel like you just don't really belong as a black person in these white spaces. And that's why I feel like it's interesting for y'all to say that as well, because we don't normally get y'all's perspective like that. Y'all are kind of just like the little sister, campus most of the time. And so to hear y'all say that is really similar to us as Notre Dame students as well. I feel like that's significant.
It is significant, and I really like that you mentioned inclusion, like. Notre Dame, and it sounds like St. Mary's also like loves to talk about, oh, we're increasing diversity, like we're doing all of this stuff. Okay, but you're doing nothing about inclusion, which is the important part to actually keep us here and actually make us like stay sane while we're here. So I just love that you also mentioned inclusion because I feel like so many people try to group them together when they're not the same thing.
Exactly.
And they both need to be hand in hand. So.
Absolutely, and you hear it all the time at Notre Dame. Like my class is 2025. We're deemed the most diverse class. 2026, they're deemed the most diverse class. 2027 is gonna be the exact same way.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are you doing exactly to make us feel more inclusive? Exactly like you said, because that's so important. It's not necessarily just bringing up the numbers. Sure, no, it's good to see more than 3 or 4 black people in the dining hall at one time. You know, that's good diversity number-wise, but how exactly is that going to make us feel more inclusive? How's that going to make us feel more included as black people on this campus? That's what I think that Notre Dame, that sounds like SMC, and maybe even Holy Cross administrators are greatly overlooking whenever they make these sort of decisions on what exactly it is they're making, or what exactly it is they're doing to make black students feel more comfortable.
100%. So yeah, the next question that I will ask you both is what is something that you wish Notre Dame students knew about St. Mary's? Like, because I feel like St. Mary's and Holy Cross students know so much about Notre Dame while we virtually know nothing about either of you. So it's like, I just love to hear more about.
I don't know.
I'll try at it. I feel like maybe just the overall like we're having the same experiences that you are, so you can't like try and overlook our experiences and deem us as less because it is just an all women's college because there's plenty of power behind that. I think just overall accepting the fact that there are other schools and recognizing that they're just as struggling in classes, it's overall just like not the same experience, but having the same problems and going through the same things. So it's not like you can't overlook another person and deem them as something else.
No, yeah. I heard like a lot of talk about like, oh, you go to St. Mary's because you didn't get into like Notre Dame. And it's like I didn't even like want to go to Notre Dame. Like I applied to St. Mary's because I wanted to go there, not because like I know, like I wanted to go to St. Mary's. So I think just like changing that perspective of a St. Mary's woman will be nice.
And kind of adding on to that, what exactly, I mean, we haven't even talked about this ourselves, but what exactly brought y'all to St. Mary's outside of, like, it's such an interesting place to go to, it seems like. So what exactly made y'all want to go there?
Yeah, I'm just going to be honest.
I'm kind of nervous now.
The scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
They give out a lot of scholarships. Mm-hmm. But also the whole idea of, like, women supporting women. Like, I love that aspect. And the empowerment and everything. And they have a good psych program, so.
I'm not gonna lie, the money as well. The financial aid is pretty plenty. As well, like at first, honestly, for me, it was kind of like scary to think I would go to an all-women's college. But I think once getting there and like seeing how close-knit everyone can be, but like in a good way, it really showed that like I wouldn't be alone in all the struggles and the problems that I would be facing. So I think that's why another like important aspect of why like I still do go to St. Mary's.
Did y'all have any sort of hesitation? Like, I don't know, whenever y'all applied, did y'all look at the demographic numbers and see how low the black numbers were compared to white numbers? Did that play any influence on y'all's decision, or was it just, we want to build this sisterhood here, we want to be able to go here because they've given us a lot of money, or, what was that sort of decision like?
I feel like regardless of like just going to PWI, I knew like the number would be low either way. So I think just like stepping out of my box and just becoming more new to the experience of like a PWI and just overall just facing it. Even if the numbers were low, it was gonna be like regardless, even if I didn't go to HBCU, I knew it was gonna be a PWI. It wasn't gonna be much in my community, so it was just more of a facing the fact and like accepting the fact that I may stand out and that I'm not always gonna be the same as other people, so
Yeah, like what Happy said. Like for high school, I went to a PWI, so I kind of knew like the atmosphere of everything. But, and I knew I was gonna stand out. So, I guess just like trying to like find my people in a PWI like setting, was what I had to do to like yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
Was that a difficult experience, finding black people on campus that you could really relate to and that you could talk to, or was it like pretty simple, pretty easy?
That was difficult. I feel like, I don't know, like standoffish kind of, like a lot of people were just standoffish. And I don't think it was like a bad thing. I think it's because we just don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, like we see each other, but we're probably just too scared to like say something to each other. So once we broke out of our shell a little bit, it became easier.
Mm-hmm.
like she said, like with the standoffish like vibes and like I don't know, like walking past one another, you do that awkward like look in eyes. And look
It is so awkward.
Like that whole awkwardness. It's more something that like I don't know. I feel like nowadays I'm just trying to like if I see you, I'm just gonna stare at you because like we're black. You're black, I'm black, we're black together. So I think just like that whole like standoffish vibe, it could just easily go away. So.
Yeah. I'm not really sure how familiar you are with the different resources and programs that we have at Notre Dame and like clubs and all that other stuff or like organizations. So I was wondering if kind of what you thought about that comparison. Like, do you think SMC does better with diversity? Do you think Notre Dame does better? Or do you think they're just both struggling together? Yeah.
I I think they're both struggling, but I feel like Notre Dame, I feel like is better only because it's a lot of you guys. Like, there's more students on campus than there is at, like, SMC. So, like, I can literally count the amount of black people in my, like, sophomore class. So, I don't know. I just think it's better here, but both can do, you know, better.
I could say both can do better, but overall, I was gonna say that St. Mary's has a pretty good idea of that because I think just because of how low the numbers are, so like in relations to like the people that I do know, it just helps that I already like know people who are black, and it just helps me and comforts me in that sort of idea.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you for sharing that. So now I want to ask you a little bit about what has been happening, especially recently, like with social media and a variety of women who are coming out with their stories after being trigger warning sexually assaulted. So I was wondering what your perspective on that was and what you think Notre Dame and St. Mary's could be doing better and what they are doing well if they are doing something well. So like, what is just your thoughts just on all of what has been going on recently?
It's been a hard week, just like hearing and having to not experience, but just overall hearing the stories that have been coming out. And I think the lack of help, of resources, and just community behind every experience is very high, and it needs help.
Like what Habby said, like the lack of resources, and like they say that they're like they'll support you and they're for you, but like they're really not. They're just like, oh, like I don't know. They just rub it off. Like they just don't do anything about it. And for what's Babo, Bells Against Violence. I don't know. Like what do they do exactly? I don't like what do they do?
And what are you
Because I feel
referring to?
it's like Bells Against Violence, like sexual assault,
Oh.
like and everything. I just don't see them doing like a lot of things to like help like St. Mary's women in general.
So is it like an organization that like
Yeah.
says that it advocates for that?
Yeah.
Okay. But doesn't really do that much to
I
actually
don't
follow
think
through?
so.
That's fair. There's a lot of that on our campuses, it looks like,
Yeah.
which is really frustrating. Okay.
Yeah, I think I can add on to that a little
Yeah.
bit too. This week, like you said, it's been very difficult. I know it's been especially difficult for women. You know, reading all these stories, and there was women that were inspired by others who were sharing their stories also share their stories. And coming from a male perspective, this week it really frustrated me a lot. I know a lot of women personally in my own life who have been sexually assaulted, who have gone through these sort of traumatic experiences, and it's so frustrating to read about the things that some of these men are doing, taking, you know, these women's womanhood away from them, absolutely just trying to obliterate their lives and just moving on with life, acting as if nothing ever happened. I think it's so frustrating, and us men, we need to do a lot better. Actually, y'all aren't even really men. If y'all are sexually assaulted women, y'all aren't men, because a real man wouldn't do something like that, you know? And especially if there's black men out there doing that, because I know some of them haven't really shared the race or ethnicity of the male perpetrator. But if there's black men out there doing that, y'all really need to step up too. I hope just the worst happens to y'all, because there's absolutely no reason why you should ever want to take advantage of a woman like that, number one. And number two, there's no reason as to why you should think you should just get away with that scot-free and just move on with life and just think that everything should be normal again. Because I can promise you, for the woman whose womanhood that you took, her life will never be the same. She will always have that traumatic experience lodged in her brain. And so for y'all to think that this is just perfectly okay to do, that's an absolute problem that absolutely needs to be addressed. And I hope that Notre Dame, St. Mary's, and Holy Cross, I hope they do a lot more to actually address these issues and actually give women a platform to not only share their issues, but also try and heal together, heal from these traumatic experiences.
Yeah. I got a lot to say on this. But yeah, completely, I agree with what you say, and I hope that everyone who has been sexually assaulted, men, women, non-binary people, I hope you find healing and I hope you find peace. And I just wanted to, you iterated about how these men need to be held accountable. I 100% agree with that. Need to be held accountable. It's very frustrating. I remember I was talking to a staff member, even just yesterday, about what was happening, and he kind of kept reiterating, like, oh, the trial found him innocent. Like, I know he tried very hard not to like say it himself. I don't know what his beliefs are, but I think just in my brain, I'm like, okay, the trial found him innocent, but at the same time, it's like, or found multiple men innocent after people have preceded a trial. But I have yet to hear about a good case that a woman has gone through where she received justice in any shape or form, including when the perpetrator admitted to doing what they claimed he did. So that is something that I find very frustrating. And if there were more examples of that, maybe I would be more hesitant to think like, oh, maybe he's innocent. But I can't do that because I have no examples of that. And I only have examples and experiences from women who are very not in favor of how the university conducts these cases or in the results that they play out. And then going back to accountability, the university needs to be held accountable. These men need to be held accountable, and the friends of these men, the friends of these perpetrators, need to be held accountable. I think this week, especially, something that has been so frustrating for me is just the lack of words from men this week. I think I've heard so many different women like sharing these stories of their peers on social media, but I have yet to see, like, I think you're the first like men or like male I have seen this week who's actually like outright publicly said something about this. I'm sure y'all, I'm not saying everyone is against this, of course not, but I just wish I would see more like public display of like, we know this is wrong and I'm gonna hold my friends accountable for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wish there was more like public acknowledgement of that. And it's just very frustrating. And I do know there are a number of men who don't hold their friends accountable and they just let them do things that they're not supposed to be doing and continue to let them disrespect women or disrespect other people. And it's just very, very frustrating because you need to hold your friends accountable. Like you need to, like you can't just let them keep doing that. Like that's not what's supposed to be happening. I don't know if you guys have anything to add after what we said.
I mean, what you said was 100% like accurate. Like we need to do better and like with like the men like not saying anything about like nothing. Like it just needs to like I don't know, just sexual assault and everything. It's just bad and this school needs to do better. The whole tri-campus just needs to do better. Like I have no words.
I think just overall, everyone needs to do better. Everyone needs to believe the victim and hear the victim. And for everyone who has come out, we hear you, we see you, we love and respect you. We send you love and respect on your journey and hope that justice can come to you. Overall, it's just a sickening thing to have to wake up and to hear about this yet another story. You tell your family, you tell your friends, another story came out, another situation happened, and like God forbid that it happens to you the next day. So it's just an overall eye-awakening situation, and it's been a hard week overall. So I hope just everyone can do better for one another.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if you have anything to add or if there's anyone else has anything else to add. Is there anything else you would like to share with us just about St. Mary's, Tri-Campus?
Y'all want to plug BSA St. Mary's, you know, like something, put out the Instagram,
love
something?
To St. Mary's BSA events, whenever we have them. We're not on the board, unfortunately, but whenever they have events, pull up to them. Why not? We share the love. The love is open to everyone.
Actually, I do have a, sort of a question about that too. I know with you, Shades of Ebony, do y'all have a lot of SMC black women come over, or is it kind of just something that's a lot more Notre Dame women based?
So I'm pretty sure all clubs throughout the campuses are open to anybody in the Tri-Campus. So of course, Shades of Ebony is open to women. I highly recommend y'all come if you want to. I know you guys are far though, so I don't blame you if you don't come. But actually, yes, we do. We have like, it's a very small number though. It's maybe like 1 or 2 women from St. Mary's. I think last year we had more than we did this year, and they were mostly, I believe, women in my grade or women the year below me, so like sophomores. So yeah, but of course, always welcome. I know it's far though, so I don't blame you guys. Now it makes me want to like consider more about St. Mary, like just this conversation, like actually doing things to be more intentional with including St. Mary's, especially because like what you mentioned before, like we think our numbers are low. It sounds like St. Mary's numbers are even lower. So it'd be very nice if we were more intentional with it, including all of y'all. So yeah.
Jayla wanted to talk about the dining hall.
Oh, the dining hall.
The food is disgusting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
My
Why do you
freshman
say
year-
oh really as if
No,
food's
because
better?
I don't think, okay, before y'all got here, because you guys are sophomores, right? Yeah. Okay, before y'all got here, my freshman year, the dining hall was struggling, just to say the least. And people would go to St. Mary's because the food at St. Mary's was better than here.
Wow.
So like that's how like, and like the food at Notre Dame apparently used to be like so good before COVID. But then like COVID just like because there was like less resources, less things were shipping, like all that other stuff, like so it really impacted the dining halls. So like I knew a lot of people from Notre Dame would go to St. Mary's to get food because they just didn't want the Notre Dame. So that's why I'm surprised. But that's my year. That's the juniors. So
Well, I have a lot of allergies, so that's probably why.
That's
like,
also very,
I can't have like dairy, soy, or gluten, so I guess.
You missing out on like every good thing in life.
I know.
No
Like,
pizza, no mac and cheese, no nothing.
I can't have any of that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, no mac and cheese.
That's what I'm saying. Oh my
And then
goodness.
my pasta, my gluten-free there's hair. My gluten-free pasta comes in like a Ziploc bag.
they give you the Ziploc
Like
bag.
they give me the Ziploc bag and I have to warm it up.
Wow.
And it's not even fully cooked. It's not.
It's crunchy.
I have no words. Dang.
SMC, we want to fix that, please. Yeah, we can't be having us doing. Nah.
Dang.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I think we've come to the conclusion of this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's give them like an imaginary round of applause. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys coming here and sharing your stories and your perspectives and kind of sharing St. Mary's with us and making sure that people here at Notre Dame, us included, like remember that we're not the only campus here. We're not the only people here. We have 2 other campuses with amazing people here as well. So thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Shout out to SMC. Shout out to y'all for coming. We really appreciate it. That's gonna wrap it up, y'all. So as always, don't ever forget, Black is beautiful, Black is love, and Black is excellence. We love y'all, and we out.